Greetings, listeners. It's your Destiny Pusher, Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey, and it's time to push through on this Fighting Friday so you can be restored and sprung forth into your destiny.
Hello everyone, I am Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey and you are tuned in to the Williams-Bey Radio Show here on 101.3, and we are actually streaming live on Facebook, and you can also listen to us on Anchor as well. But I'm just so excited to just be back on the air with you all, and just that you guys have taking your time out to just tune into the show. I need you guys to please make sure that you share this broadcast. Please make sure that you follow us on all social media at Bey Radio Show. And please, in the comments, because I'll be all in the comments, guys, so make sure that you let me know where you're tuning in from. Where you tuning in from? Where my New York people? And where is Nigeria? Where's my Nigerian family, right? And some of our listeners even over in Germany. So again, thank you guys. Just please make sure you let us know where you're tuned in from. So listen, guys, our topic today is actually finding her, my fight for her rather, right? And I have the beautiful author of that book, Miss Andrea Waller. She is our special guest. So without further ado, I'm actually going to bring her on because nobody can announce you better than yourself, right?
Okay.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, how are you, Cynthia?
I am great. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. So tell the listeners a little bit, well, listeners and viewers, hey, right? Hey, guys. So tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right, first I want to say thank you, of course, for having me on today. I'm a small country girl from Alta Vista, Virginia. Nobody ever knows where that is.
I was about to say,
yeah, nobody ever knows where it is. So I always similar to Lynchburg, Liberty College. So I'm about 20 minutes from that. Born and raised there in that area. My grandparents raised me, so I am a grandparents' baby all day. Growing up, you know, I always thought I was the center of attention because I got that type of popularity, and I never really understood like the insecurities that I dealt with. At a young age, I had a child at 16, and later in life, 18 whole years later in life, I decided to have another child. So I am the proud mother of two phenomenal sons. They are my strength. They're my everything. I love just being me. And that's one of my gifts that I thank God for giving me, is I'm very raw and very transparent about my life. And my life is open for the most part. Especially this last year, I've learned how to be super open. So
yes, wow. Well, first off, let's say, because she kind of slid over, it was like, yeah, my two sons. No, this is the mom of Mr. Andrea Waller. Listen, guys, y'all know, because we all love Chick-fil-A, right? Her son is amazing. When I say he's amazing, and to be so young, and that's what actually, you know, attracted like me seeing you from the outside as a single mom, and then you've done an amazing job, you know, raising him, and then you have Harlem, right?
Yes,
the newest addition. But yes, Abram, you guys have seen him, White Oak, yes, Richmond, where he did an amazing job just managing that Chick-fil-A, and now he's
Chesapeake. Yeah,
Chesapeake.
Yep, he's a general manager now. It's been the only job he's ever had since he was 15, and he's a general manager now.
Yes, and he operates in excellence. Like, just excellent. You see him on the commercials and everything. So, hey, Abram.
Hey, son. And I'm a new grandma.
Yes, congratulations on the baby.
Yes.
We gotta send a princess again.
Yes, baby Raina has made her entrance.
Oh, I love that. This the second child I just met with the name Rain.
Wow. Yeah, that's Granny's baby girl.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. So, you know, one of the things I had wanted to talk about before we get in the book, and I'm pretty sure you talked about it in the book, and then myself, you know, being a widow and losing my husband, I wanted to make sure I brought people on kind of with the same story of suffering and dealing with loss, and then having the challenges of raising children after your spouse, loved one passes on. So can you share with the audience your story in regards to Abram's dad?
So Abram lost his dad at a really early age. He was 8, and I always say this, and I even say it, and I praise Don in his death, that I couldn't have asked for one of the best people to partner and have a child with. I was super young, and we had a huge age gap in our relationship, and so a lot of people was like, whoa, that's weird. We were actually 10 years apart. He was 10 years older than me when I met him, but it was just something about him that drew me to him. He's a hardworking person, really quiet, totally opposite of me. And we had a really great relationship. He wanted to get married, and and when we found out we were pregnant with Abram, it was like the highlight of his life. It was his first child. So he was so overjoyed with that, and took so much pride in it. And over about 2 years, I just wasn't there because clearly I'm super young and I'm experiencing motherhood, and we were engaged, and it was just a lot. So we decided to separate, but obviously we still remained parents because that was the most important thing. And he went on and he got married, and I went through a period in my life where I got caught up with the wrong crowd, and I had to end up being incarcerated for 2 years. And in that process, Abram was with his dad, and I felt very secure about that because, again, a wonderful man. And I was released in December of 2005, and in April of 2006, I got a phone call from Don's niece. It was a little maybe after 11 o'clock at night, and I just remember her screaming and crying, and I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she says, Uncle Don is dead. Uncle Don is dead. And I'm like, what? Wow. And it was spring break, so just so happened Harlem was with me for spring break. And I'm just like, I'm not processing this because I'm like, how am I going to wake up an 8-year-old child and tell him, the person that, he loves his dad, that this is happening. And I remember calling my grandmother first, trying to figure out how to process this. And okay, we're going to go to the hospital. Maybe it's not as bad as they think it is. And I woke Abram up, and he's 8. And I'll never forget when I woke him, I said, Abram, come on, wake up. He grabbed his side and he said, Mom, my side hurts. And I said, it's okay. Come on, let's put your shoes on. We got to go to the hospital. Your dad's at the hospital. And as we're driving, I'm crying because I know it's dad. And I'm like, he kept saying, Mom, why are you crying? And I pulled over before we got to the hospital, and I just said, Abram, your dad is dead. And I felt like the worst parent, in the whole wide world. How can you tell your child that the person that they look up to, they'll never get to hear that voice again? It was horrible. And so we drove to the hospital, and it was nothing they could do. He had bled out, and it was crazy because he was married, and the person that Abram had lived in the house with, him and his dad, his wife stabbed and killed him. And so how do you explain now that, because he's like, okay, he's built a relationship with this woman. And now not only does your dad not exist anymore, the person that you had connected with through your dad is the cause of your dad's death. So I felt like double bad as a mom.
Wow.
So we processed that, and I promise you, I've never, Cynthia, met a 8-year-old child that had so much strength and so much endurance. But Abram picked out his dad's casket. He picked out his dad's suit. Abram at 8 years old stood up in the pulpit and spoke at his dad's funeral. I never knew. I didn't have that much strength, and I was a grown up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? Like, it's so many things that stood out. One, before you found out that he passed on, Abram said his side was hurting.
He felt it, and that's where his dad got stabbed at.
Wow. Powerful. And then him picking out the casket.
Yes.
Wow.
He was 8. He's 8 years old. And I mean, he picked out everything. He said, I'm going to wear a suit like my dad. He got in the pulpit. He spoke about his dad. He spoke about, I mean, I can remember verbatim. He talked about, you know, how everybody is not lucky to have a dad. And he said, I've had a great dad in my life always. He said, when I left for spring break to go to my mom, he just told me, you know, Abram, you know how much your dad loves you.
Wow.
You know, and even speaking to the neighbor, because when the incident happened, he was able to run from his apartment to the neighbor's apartment. And even in his death, the neighbor told me, she said, all he kept saying was, please let my son know that I love him. Please let my son know that I love him.
Wow.
You know?
But I just even think about just, first off, Abram, I know you've heard it. It's been prophesied. The call that's on his life, because even the protection that God had with him, because he should have been there.
Yes, absolutely.
And the fact that he was home with you, right? It was kind of God already knew. Mm-hmm. But even just speaking to guys, even the fact of what happened to his dad, we don't hear stories like this. We often hear about women that pass on and have fatal, wounds as a result of a spouse, domestic violence, but we don't really talk about the men.
No.
Right?
No.
And I just remember when I was younger, my older cousin, the same incident on Easter Sunday, he was murdered by his baby mother in front of the children.
Wow.
But it was just like, I didn't hear about anything like that happening ever again. So you to talk about it, that's something that we should, share more and speak about more, because it's just not women that go through domestic violence.
Absolutely
it's
not.
men too that go through abuse and domestic violence and toxic women, right? Nobody should ever be to the point where we feel like we want to do harm to the person we love. Like, just walk away.
Absolutely.
Or walk away, right? Because it's not worth your life.
No. I made that post this morning, know when to walk away and when to hold on. And you have to know the difference.
Yeah.
And, and Don, he tried to hold on because his wife had health issues, and so he tried. He tried. And, even towards the end, we learned that he had been talking to a lawyer for divorce, but yet he still was trying to hold on. And then he had actually left and was staying with his sister. And I think his ex-wife now, of course, it was in a car accident. And so as a good husband, he went back to take care of her.
Wow.
And that was his last time. That was his last time. So, it just, even to this day, Abram is 24 now, and he's, just stepped into fatherhood. But I just remember every single special moment and every time, when the tears would flow, because he's like, I just wish my dad was here. It's no matter how hard I hug him, no matter how many times I wipe his tears, I can never ease that pain for him.
Yeah.
When he found out he was having a baby, he said, Mom, I wonder what my dad would say. And I said, your dad would be so proud of the man you are.
Yeah.
So proud of how, you've never been in trouble. You're a valedictorian at high school. Just everything in 8 years that he could impact in you, he did. Wow. And even in his death, so many of Abram's traits are like Don's. He's a hard worker. Responsibility. He knows how to take care of responsibility so well. And I always just tell him, Abram, no matter what, your dad is with you. Even though he's not here with you physically, you were robbed. That's just the point. It's no way around it. It's no tiptoeing around it. And people don't think that domestic violence happens when it comes to men. They think it only happens with women. And it's not true. I'm a woman and I know how much power I possess.
Yes.
And sometimes, women, we hold these things over men, and it's you don't understand when you make a man feel so broken that they feel like they don't have any other choice but to stay.
Yeah.
And then something like that happens. There's no coming back from it.
Yeah.
There's just no coming back from it.
Wow. So explain the process, just like some of the challenges that you face, as a single mom, because it's like double trauma. My dad is gone, and the woman that I saw as my stepmom that I loved, right? Because he established that relationship with her, trusted her, and she took my dad. Like, how did you handle that?
I had took a whole lot of self praying for me. Because she only did 3 years for it. And she did 3 years for it. Wow. And she's home. She's now since had a baby, and she's living her life just fine. And even down to just with Abram, like when he wanted to get his dad's clothes from in the apartment, nobody would let him get his dad's stuff. So that was a challenge. School events, all of that stuff, that not having that dad presence there was difficult because I couldn't play 2 roles. I was blessed and so thankful that Don came from such a phenomenal family that, his Don's mom and dad and his siblings have always stepped up and always been my backbone, when it came to if I needed anything for Abram, or even just like that extra support, or hey, like I don't really know what to say to him in this moment. Like, they always stepped in for me. So I'm thankful that I did have at least his family to kind of help me through a lot of the things. I'm thankful that Don was a hardworking man, because financially I was still able to get support in his death. So some of those things were a little bit easier. But again, when it came time to, going into puberty, who am I supposed to talk to? He's a boy, I'm a girl. He's not going to share certain things with me. When he starts liking girls, what am I supposed to do? Who can he talk to? So it was a lot of moments throughout, like, those years of him passing. Like it was 16 years, April 17th. And just to rewind for a minute, the ironic thing about his death date is that was my original due date for Abram, was April 17th.
Wow.
My original due date was April 17th, and Don passed away on April 17th.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just found that to be just like, wow. And so he was gone 16 years this past April. And, even now, Abram he'll pick up the phone and he'll call me and he'll just cry. And he'll say, Mom, I really miss my dad. And I just, say, well, just talk about it. Tell me. And, technology wasn't like technology, now 16 years ago. So, we don't have any videos of Don. Like, there's no recordings of his voice. And, so all we have are like pictures. But it's just like, I remember one time Abram told me, I think he was about to turn 16. He was like, Mom, my dad's voice is fading.
Oh, wow.
And what do you do? I'm like trying to scramble. Like, I reached out to his sister. I'm like, hey, dude, is it anything with Don's voice on it? Like, so I could try to capture it for him. And it's nothing.
Yeah.
So that part gets hard. And I don't think time I ever healed that wound from him.
Yeah. And I want to pause there, too, to just address the audience and let them know, like, don't be ashamed to celebrate, right? Your children's fathers, your children's mothers, your spouses, because we're in this age now, right, where it's just like we allow people to dictate our happiness and how we navigate, right? And I know for me and Andre, like, I was the one, like, I was always, hey, let's get a video, let's get cheese, right? And I didn't understand, like, why God had me like that, because I wasn't always like that. But it was just like, when you go out, like, if I was to go and open his laptop right now, it's pictures and videos of us and the kids and me and stuff like that. And even with the radio show, like, people don't understand, like, how much of a treasure that stuff can be. So it was just like, I'm like, I know people sick of me, but I don't care. Right? Because, like, right now, I am able to get so much strength being able to go to Facebook and see the memories, or go to the radio show page and hear his voice. Like, and my kids will have that. Like, when I'm gone, my great grandkids can pull up media, because I tell you one thing about social media is like once it's out there, it's always out there. You'll always be able to retrieve that article, retrieve that media.
Yes.
Right? So, wow, man, that hurts, because I'm like, I wish that he had it. Like,
yes, it's so important. That's why, I think I'm like you. Like, I capture everything, and people be so like, oh my God, not another picture, not another video. Yeah. But I'm like, if somebody is gone, that's all you have.
Yeah, exactly.
You have nothing else physical of that person.
Yes.
So those things are so critical, and I just wish that we could have captured those things and put them in a time capsule. Yeah. But again, you don't know.
Yeah,
you don't know when those moments are going to occur for you or somebody that you love. And it's just like, but when it does, like, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And I think even 16 years later, I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yes.
Even though me and Don wasn't in a relationship anymore, we birthed a child together. Exactly. We created something great together.
Yeah.
And, and there's a lot of times that I still am like, oh God, I don't know what to do, because I know Abram's probably going to call me and he's going to say something about this moment and this moment that's happening in his life. Yeah. I know he wishes Dad was here. Yeah. So I try to pep talk myself
to prepare for
it. Yes.
Wow. So your book here, My Fight for Her. Guys, please make sure. How can everyone, first off, get this book?
Yeah, so it is Amazon published, but I always tell people to go to my website. It's www.andrea, and that's AndreaWaller.com. So just my first and last name.com, and it's on my website.
Wow.
So yes. And I do candles. I produce my own candle line also.
Yes, so, excellent. Listen, when I see her website and her branding is like excellent, it is. Yes. So shout your coach out for a second.
So yes, best coach in the world, Regina Bonds. She's located in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm telling you, she's been my best friend for over 15 years, but I invested on a whole nother level and paid for her services. No discount, no nothing. So when you believe in something that somebody does, you pay for it, and it was worth every coin I spent. Every coin I spent.
Yes. Wow. Yes. So after all that, now you have to fight for her.
Yes.
What was that journey like? Fighting for you, right? Because you didn't been around the wrong people. You didn't serve time.
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah.
Listen. We need a hug.
Right. Yeah.
You just come home.
Yeah.
And then
that happened.
I was
devastated. Yeah, it was devastation because, again, it goes back to being a mother. And in my book, I talk a lot about a mother wound. Yes. And I never had my mother in my life the way she should be in my life because she suffered from drug abuse my whole life. So my grandparents raised me to kind of shield me from that part of life. And, and I just remember as a kid going to visit my mom in prison. Yes. And I just vowed, anything that anybody has ever been through in life, you always say, if I have a child, I'm never going to put my child through that. That's like the golden rule. And I remember, saying those things to myself, and then I found myself in those situations. Yes. I found myself being a 12-year-old girl dating somebody that was 2 years older than me and getting caught up in the fast life and being physically assaulted and abused at 12 years old. And I think about that now as a 41-year-old woman. I couldn't imagine a 12-year-old girl in a domestic violence relationship, but I was that girl. I was that 12-year-old girl, and and just doing things to fit in because I didn't have that love that I desired from the person that I desired it from, which was my mom. And and then going through those things, and then standing in court, and they said, oh, you have 18 months in a federal penitentiary. What? I mean, wow. I'm devastated. How am I supposed to tell at the time my 6-year-old son this?
Yeah, that you have to
Yeah, like that is just like unrealistic to me. I'm like, what is my life going to be like when I come home? Like, this is unreal for me. And, going through that experience and then coming home and not even 4 months later, Don getting killed, I'm just like, what in the world is happening to my life, And so I tried to fight through that, but then again, setbacks and setbacks and setbacks. And then I made a decision to move to Richmond. And it's like, oh, okay, life is good now. I'm in Richmond. Things are opening up, and relationship failed again. And then it's like, bam, 36, I'm pregnant. I was, in a same-sex relationship for almost 9 years.
Wow.
And I end up pregnant. Wow. And so it's so much, and I don't want to give it away because I'm telling you, and
get the book.
The book is
get the book, please.
One of those stories you'll relate to in your life. One of those chapters for sure.
Yeah.
And and I had to really overcome those things. And last year, when my grandmother passed away unexpectedly, that was my mom.
Wow.
And I'll get emotional because that's my mom, that's my best friend.
Yeah.
She was my everything.
Yeah.
And I made a decision after being gone 12 years. I met now definitely the love of my life. I definitely met the love of my life 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we decided to come back to Lynchburg.
Yes.
And not even a month after being back, my grandmother passed away. And I'm just like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided, you know what? It's more than I should be doing. Like, stop hiding your story. Stop being ashamed that you were a convicted felon. Stop being ashamed of those things. Stop being ashamed that you had a child when you were 16. Like, stop being ashamed of telling your truth, because your truth can save somebody else's life.
Exactly.
And I made that decision, when I invested in Regina, and she was just like, sis, it's time. It's time.
Yeah.
So I came up with the brand I Am Enough. And I just learned that if I'm going to be that brand, then I have to live that brand.
Yes.
I have to truly...
Say that again. If you are going to be that brand, you have to live that brand.
You have to live it.
So many people out here living with
falsified. It's falsified.
Ain't been through nothing.
Nope.
And trying to free somebody.
Yep. You can't look up somebody else's story and try to make it your own. You just can't. You can't do it.
Ooh, girl, you on fire.
You can't. And so in doing that, I decided, you know what? I'm going to free myself.
Yes.
By writing my story.
Because we got to free ourselves before we can free anybody
else. That's the only way, and I tell even now to this day, my mom still struggles. And I tell her, I said, she's like, I just want to love you guys. And I said, just love you first.
Yes.
Love you first past your flaws, because I had to learn how to look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if they judge me. It doesn't matter if they feel a certain way because, they hear the word felon or I've been to prison. It's like automatically they think the wrong thing or the worst thing. It doesn't matter because I'm Andrea and I was perfectly made in the eyes of God, regardless of my flaws. Mm-hmm. And so once I felt comfortable with releasing that story, oh my God, like my life felt so much bigger.
Yeah.
Like my purpose just felt like, okay, this is where I should be at in my life right now.
Yeah.
And that's where my faith for her came from.
Yeah. And we're overcome by the power of our testimony, right?
Yes.
That's how you fight the enemy. That's how you fight him.
Yes.
And get him off your back by releasing your testimony, because in releasing your testimony, that's how you break the yokes.
Yes.
That's how you save souls. That's how you get people back to the kingdom, because now they see the love that God has for you, even through all that.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because people, they're not coming to Christ, right? You guys are not coming to Christ because of how perfect my life is.
That's right.
You're coming to Christ because of how jacked up, how messed up, how muddy, how dirty it was.
Yes.
Right? And the fact that you still see God pushing me through.
Yes, absolutely.
You still see God carrying me through. Mm-hmm. Right?
And real recognize real.
Yeah.
I always say I don't care if you're in a 100% church setting nobody wants to be a part of anything where it doesn't seem real, where it feels generic.
Yes.
And that's just the fact of the matter. When you have a relatable person that's trying to help you get to the next level, it's so much real, and I'm so more inclined to open up to you about my life, because if I feel like you've never walked in my shoes, you've never had any challenges in your life, you silver spoon fed, it's hard to relate, you know? Like, you can't help somebody if you've never broke a fingernail, okay? Just smallest thing. Never broke a fingernail. You can't tell me how my fingernail gonna feel if I break it.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be able to relate to somebody on the level that they are in some type of way to make that true connection.
Yeah. And you know, it's so crazy because before I do interviews and stuff, or I coach my clients, you know, that's a plug. I'm a business coach, I'm a consultant. Book me, y'all.
Yes.
Right? But I always try to pray about it and ask God, okay, what is it? And like, just as you're talking, one of the things that he had given me was the woman with the issue of blood. Right? Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing that most people miss, they were so focused on her issue and her bleeding, and they deemed her unclean, right? But what they should have been focused on was her perseverance, her resilience, and her push.
Yes.
Because that push, even with all that was going on with her and being unclean and nobody like, oh, she ain't nobody. She was the one that was able to push through and touch the hem of God.
Absolutely.
She was the one that took the virtue out of him.
Come on, Cynthia.
And he stopped and said, who touched me?
Yes, okay.
Right? So it is not the perfection and how good you can speak in tongues and you can script and all that and recite scriptures and stuff like that. God wants authenticity. He wants people that's really going to be reaching to him, because, you know, it's the people low. Like, we're supposed to be like a hospital.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're supposed to be bringing in the lost and those that don't have hope. But it's like just this culture and this time, we only want to be associated with the people that don't got no issues.
That's right.
Or rather, the ones whose issues not public.
That's right. That's it.
You
right
know?
There. That is it right there. Like, put me with the crowd that, you know, nobody really knows what they do when they're not out there. But, you know, so I can kind of hang with them.
Yes.
But it's the people that's out there. Everybody know her story. Everybody know what she did. Like, no, that's what God uses. Like, I was in a church one time, and someone said that, you know, God doesn't want the notebook paper. He goes in the trash can and he gets that piece of paper that's sold and wrinkled and balled up. Yes, and those are the people that he uses for his glory the most. And not saying that the perfect people he don't use, that's not what I'm portraying.
Exactly.
But God does. He really does. Like you said, he wants those people that have those issues, because those are the people that need to be saved. And the people that, like, I feel like personally, sometimes, like, the reason why people don't want to be a part of the church per se is because of the church cliques. And okay, if I'm not walking this way, if I'm not dressing this way, then I don't fit the bill of what the church should look like.
Yes.
But no, even in my situation that I was in when I dated the same sex, I still went to church. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's like that when you that's when we need it more.
Yes.
But we scared to go because of the judgment.
Yes.
So it's like when you go in and you're coming as you are, as we tell people, then it's like, well, I don't like
then we break out the rules. We break out the rules, like, no, what's rules to this? I went to church even then. I would stand up. I would worship even.
And girl, your worship was she's the fire starter, guys. She was the fire starter.
You know, even in that, you know, you still have to worship. And, you know, even in my lowest points, I knew, because what my grandparents instilled in me my whole life is, like, I know how to pray. I don't care about what anybody says or think about Andrea. I have my own relationship with God, and nobody can stray me for that. You know, and that's just period. That's all. As the young kids would say, that's on period.
That's on period.
That's on period.
Yeah.
But
your grandmother, and as they say, raise up a child the way it should go, and they should not depart.
That's
so
right.
sometimes you have to allow your children, your friends, your family to go their way, but just know that God is still with them.
That's right.
Right? He's going to bring them back.
Absolutely.
Right?
My grandparents used to be so devastated at my actions growing. I mean, I was in detention homes, you name it. And my grandparents couldn't figure it out. I mean, my granddad's a chairman of the digging board at church. And they like, what is going on? Like, we don't raise this girl like this. So, what they instilled in me, I'm still that person that's old school. Before I get in my car and travel, I say a travel prayer. Yeah. Like, that's just what they instilled in me. Like, when Abram is getting ready to get on the highway and go somewhere, all right, call me Abram so I can go ahead and say the prayer for y'all. Yes. That's just who I am and always will be, and I know that.
Wow. So look, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a pause and we're going to take a break, guys, and we'll be back. But again, you are listening to the Williams-Bey Radio Show here on 101.3 FM. Rejoice.
Let's go. Hello, Rejoice listeners. This is Cynthia Williams-Bey of the Williams-Bey Radio Show. Be sure to tune in with me every Friday at 12 noon here on Rejoice 101.3 because it's Fighting Fridays and it's time for you to push through so God can restore you and spring you forth into your destiny. Hello, Rejoice listeners. It's your Destiny Pusher, Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey, with a huge announcement. Please join All Nations Presbyterian Fellowship as they present the Big Give Back. You heard that, the Big Give Back. They will be out in the community on Saturday, June 11th from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. They will be at the RVA Community Events Park located at 335 Jefferson Davis Highway. Please be sure to come out and bring the kids as there will be free giveaways, there will be food, there will be games, and guess what? The Williams-Bey Radio Show will be out there with a little bit of music. So please make sure that you come out and support and get some free food and get the things that you need for the community. So again, meet me on June 11th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the RVA Community Events Park located at 335 Jefferson Davis Highway. This is your Destiny Pusher, Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey, and I'll see you guys next week.
Someone may be wondering how you can smile. Everything that's going on in your life, this is what you tell them. Listen. This joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. And if the world can't take it away, because Jesus is that joy. Jesus is that joy. Oh, let's sing it again. This joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. No, this joy that I have, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy I have, this joy that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. hands, feel it in my hands. I feel it in my hands, feel it in my hands. I feel it in my feet, feel it in my feet. Feel it in my feet, feel it in my feet, yeah.
Feel them in my hands, feel them in my hands. I feel them in my hands, feel them in my hands.
I feel it in my feet, my feet, my feet. I feel it in my hands.
Feel them in my hands, feel them in my hands.
When I clap
feel them in my hands, feel them in my hands.
I dance with my feet. This joy goes down my feet, goes to my feet.
Feel them in my hands, feel them in my hands.
This is amazing joy.
Feel them in my hands.
This is a wonderful joy. This is the part for you to dance, for you to clap your hands. And while you're clapping, joy is coming back to you. Your faith is being restored. Strength, peace of mind. It's yours in His joy. Yeah, this joy that I have.
This joy that I have.
The world didn't give it to me.
The world didn't give it to me.
And if the world didn't give it, the world can take it away.
All right, guys, you are tuned back into the Williams-Bey Radio Show, and I am Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey, your Destiny Pusher. And if you are just tuned in, we are actually here with the lovely Andrea Waller, the author of My Fight for Her. So she just has been really just blessing us. But listen, guys, I need y'all to do me a favor, because this story, her testimony, it needs to be heard. So please make sure that you share this broadcast, okay? I need all of you guys that are tuned in via Facebook, our Facebook family, share this broadcast, okay? So before we left for the break, it was just kind of sharing your story of just overcoming. You talked about your grandma, beautiful grandma.
Yes.
So what I would say is, when you were that little girl and you were going through 12 years old and you were going through domestic violence, abuse, like as a 12-year-old, like what are some of the signs that moms, like myself and others that have girls that may work, right? What are some of the signs so we can kind of keep a hold of our girls?
Yes. I would definitely say be cautious when your daughters are dating someone. They're in that phase of, I really like somebody. Mm-hmm. Pay attention to how they change themselves as a person, how attached. And I know, all young kids now are so attached to their phones, but really be cautious as to how attached they are to their phone, and just make sure that they're not attached to that one person that's on that phone, because that person could be really controlling them in a mental way. It may not be physical, but it could be mental control over them, where they feel like, hey, I can't talk to anybody else on the phone because I have to be available for my boyfriend, all the time. Like, those are things that you want to really break and try to nip in the bud at the beginning stages, because once a person gets so dependent on someone, they can lose it. So if the boyfriend breaks up with them or something happens, they can really want to do harm to their self. There's so many different aspects of it. So really paying attention to how attached someone is to another person. Because at 12 years old, you shouldn't be attached to anybody. You know, that's just the fact of the matter. Does it happen? No, it doesn't. So just really paying attention to how attached they are to a person, how often they feel like they need to be on the phone with somebody, if it's a consistent all day type of situation. Like, those things are unhealthy, because then that becomes their main focus. Then where does school fit in at? Where does family time fit in at? And I think going back to how maybe some of us was raised when we were little, was no such thing as social media at the dinner table. Sure was. There was no, you need to watch TV when you're eating dinner. No, it was like that was our time as a family. So I think even going back to those things and just really not being afraid to talk to your child. Like, so many parents, I think we're so scared to have a real life conversation with our child. And you can't. I need to know who you like. Matter of fact, let me see your phone. They don't pay no bills. So pick up their phone, like go through their phone without them knowing it, so you can know what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what's going on in their life, you can't save and you can't help them.
Yeah.
My grandparents was excellent grandparents, but they were older also, so a lot of things I could get away with that, that I probably wouldn't have been able to if I had a mom and a dad actually present in my life. So just really be cautious and don't be scared or afraid to actually pick up their belongings and actually go through them.
Yeah.
Because it could save them. It could save them, and be the person that you felt like. That's the main reason why I named my book, My Fight for Her. Yeah. I wanted to now become the person that I needed as a little girl.
Yes.
So be that person for your child.
Yes. Wow, that's powerful. Yes. Pick up those phones. Listen, the other thing too, I'm going to throw in a tip there. Don't try to not let your kids, because I know sometimes a lot of people, the advice they give is, no social media. I'm telling you, when your kids go to school, they're getting exposed to stuff. And we don't want to try to shield them away.
Don't put them in a bubble because it's the nails. Like that. Facebook is the nail. Instagram is the nail. Snap is the nail.
Yes.
So don't, isolate them or make them feel like, dang, I can't do anything. Because trust me, audience, that's when the sneaky stuff happens. Because
exactly.
I know.
Now they're sneaking.
Yes.
And then the other thing too, because look, one thing I'll say about, and me and Dre would laugh about it. Like, even though I'm a lot of people sometimes you from Brooklyn, just because my demeanor, right? However, I know street smarts. Yeah, I know what a bad dude look like, right? Yes. I know what a pimp look like. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And when I tell you, isolated girls or church saved girls is like a drug dealer's, a pimp, a bad dude's dream, because he can manipulate her. Yes. And it's their desire to break her. Like, that's what their craving is. Yeah. To break that good girl. So you want to make sure you give them some type of exposure, because what ends up happening is once that child goes to college or once that child goes to high school, she's going to see that bad boy.
That's right. Right? And that's a magnet.
Exactly. And y'all need to go watch. Listen, I know they have the regular Sparkle. Yeah. Go look at the original Sparkle. Yeah. Because that's the story that scared me. My mom let me watch that movie. And when I tell you, the guys, look at the original Sparkle, right? Let you go to see that. So they'll have an understanding, because that, when I would date guys and stuff like that, and it's not to say we're not going to go through things. Yeah. But it was like, I knew what guys to stay away from seeing that movie Sparkle. It shook me, and I remember that, right? Mm-hmm. So listen, guys.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you can prevent, because I knew nothing about bad boys, because again, my grandparents raised me, so I'm in the church for everything that the church had, and so I'm just like, when I remember when I first got in trouble in school, I told you I was bad, and I'm not promoting being bad. I just, know those things have made me be who I am now. Yes. And so I had got kicked out of regular school and had to go to an alternative school. Mm-hmm. And that's when I met my very first boyfriend. Yes. And, and he was exposed to a totally different life from me. Yeah. And I found that to be so intriguing, So I'm telling my grandparents, stories like, can I spend a night with such and such? I'm going to the skating ring, and and I'm on a whole date with this 15-year-old boy at the time, and he's selling drugs and doing all of this stuff, buying me sneakers. Now I'm telling my girl, I did such and such hair, and that's how I got the money to get my sneakers. So yes, you don't want to overshield, but you want to be aware, so that way you're able to have these type of real life conversations, because real conversations help so much more than finding out, when you think about how many young girls get pregnant, teenage pregnancies, and they're 7 months before their parents even know. Yeah. They hide it, so well. So it's really just being able to have those transparent conversations and letting your children know, listen, mommy hasn't always been, this person that you see here now. Yes. Mommy has been through things too, and that was one of the things that I had to overcome, and unfortunately I had to overcome it really early, especially with Abram, because I didn't want anybody else to tell him where mommy had to go when he was 6 years old.
Exactly.
You know, I wanted to have that conversation with him myself. Yeah. You know, so some things I couldn't shield him from, you know, even when I stepped into a same-sex relationship, because Abram was always, like you spoke about earlier, so churchy. So I remember him when I said, well, we're going to move to Richmond. He was like, Mom, I don't want you to go to hell. I can't believe it. Mom, it's not right. He didn't want my girlfriend to come to school function because he didn't want anybody to know about that.
Yeah.
You know, so even with that, like, kids are not oblivious. Like, they know. They just wait for you to be honest with them.
Yeah.
You know, so just really having those real conversations. And I'm thankful that even now, like, I'm able to still have those real conversations with Abram, and he's able to have those conversations with me, and even with Harlem, you know. And when you guys get the book, you'll read about, you know, Harlem has never had his biological father in his life. And, you know, and at first, because when I had Harlem, I met another woman 2 months after I gave birth to Harlem. And so he considers her to be his mama, and I'm his mommy. So for the last 4 years of his life, he's only known to have two moms as his parents. And the older he gets, last year he says, Mom, well, where's my dad? I know I have a guy dad, you know. And so my only response to him is, well, you have a dad, he just doesn't want to meet you. Because how do you explain that to a 4-year-old? And again, I'm thankful for the love that I have in my life now with Antonio. We've been together a little over 2 years, and he has been so phenomenal with Harlem, you know, in ways I could never even, you know, have asked for. And, you know, Harlem's like, Antonio's my dad, Mom, you know. And so he's like, I can call him Dad, Bro, Antonio. He's all these names for him. And, you know, and again, God works the way he needs to work, because not telling Antonio's story, but, you know, Antonio was incarcerated for almost 19 years of his life. And he has 3 children, and he didn't get to experience things with his children.
And
you
now
know,
it's like,
and now, you know, he gets to experience, you know, putting a child on the school bus for the first time, and, you know, doing things and birthdays, and, you know, and now, you know, he has grandchildren, and so he does those things with his grandchildren. So life just finds a way, I feel like, it's just working itself the way it needs to work.
Wow.
Like I do.
Wow. So for the woman that's out there that's listening and tuned in, that has some obstacles, has a past, have went through some things, may still be struggling with things, I want you to look in the camera and speak to her and tell her what she can do to kind of get past that. Like, what advice would you give her?
So listen, take this from somebody that has walked the shoes. No matter how many flaws or how many scars you have, what's in you is destined to be birthed out. Regardless, honestly, of how many people has told you no, how many times you felt so insecure about the decisions that you feel like you want to make, or something that you feel like you want to do, but you're so scared of that knockdown. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm telling you, it does not matter of the judgment. It doesn't matter, because there's that one person, and it only takes that one time for you to get that right connection, and for your whole life to change in ways that you couldn't have imagined. I am a 41-year-old woman from a small town. My mother was a drug addict my whole entire life. To this point today, she still struggles with her habits. I've been beat. I've been in prison. I've lowered my standards so many times in my life, but it never stopped me. It blocked me at moments, but it didn't stop me. And I am truly a living testimony that anything that your heart desires, if you put your mind to it and you believe in yourself first, you can make it happen. It's you. You believe in you first, and everything else will show up. So take it from me. First step is to forgive yourself and love yourself for any mistakes that you've ever made, and watch what happens.
Yes. Amen. So how can we all support you and continue to follow your journey and get your book?
So, of course, website is www.andreawaller.com. You can find all of my products there. I'm on Facebook, either Andrea Waller or I Am Enough LLC. And then Instagram is I Am Enough _ by Andrea or just Andrea Waller.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming on to the show. I mean, I just love to bring individuals on that have a testimony and one that would be impactful to the audience because, listen, it's Fighting Fridays.
It's Fighting Fridays. I love you. Thank you for all that you're doing, Cynthia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And there you guys have it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in to the Williams-Bey Radio Show. I am your destiny pusher, Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey. Look,
yes.
Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey. And again, don't forget to just tune in with us on next week Friday for Fighting Fridays, because it's time to continue to push forward so God can restore you so you can spring forth into your destiny. See y'all next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Williams-Bey Radio Show here on Rejoice 101.3. To be a guest or to become a partner of our show, please be sure to email me at cindy@beyradioshow.com. To stay up to date with us and to catch the replay, visit us at www.beyradioshow.com. And don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Bey Radio Show. And again, this is your destiny pusher, Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey, and I need you to meet me back next Friday at the same time so that God can restore you and spring you forth into your destiny.